I know you heard a lot about MCP servers because there is a lot of hype on social media platform like Twitter, YouTube, and many other folks are discussing about MCP servers and how they are giving the superpowers to the artificial intelligence agents and large language models, but no one able to teach you or no one able to explain it in a concrete way how the MCP works. In this episode, I will break down all the elements of MCP and I will show you on my machine how the MCP servers communicate and how they give the superpowers to the AI agents and large language models. And before we go into the technical details, I want to make sure that we actually understand what is MCP. In a nutshell, MCP is nothing more than a client server architecture. To understand this example, let's make a quick request to a google.com. So, whenever we do a search on a web, the web search is also a client server architecture where whenever we type in www.google.com, it goes to the google.com server and the protocol it uses is HTTPS. All the browsers like Safari, Firefox, Chrome, all of these are the clients, and these clients makes the request to the particular server. In that case, it's a google.com server, and the browser implement that protocol. Without this protocol, they cannot communicate with a Google server. So the HTTPS is a standard protocol for the web, and it basically runs on port 443 for HTTPS and on port 80 for HTTP. In the same way, if we look at this diagram, we have a three components. One is the MCP host, the middle layer is the MCP server, and the third layer is a resources or the tools those MCP server uses. So in that case, whenever a MCP host make a request to the MCP server, the MCP server based on request type use the particular tool. So let's say if a MCP host make a request to go to a google.com, it uses this MCP server and will fulfill that request. So before going to show you the actual components of MCP server, I want to explain that what will happen without MCP, right? And what is that MCP host? So MCP host is nothing more than a LLM or AI agent application. The simple example is this Claude. You can see that the Claude, I have a Claude and a VS Code. Both of these are the MCP hosts, which means that these two hosts, the Claude and VS Code, can communicate with MCP server. And why they need to communicate? The question is why they need to communicate. Let me show you an example. So I will make a new chat and let's say go to google.com and read all the articles on MCP server topic. So you can see that I gave the prompt to this Claude application, which is using the LLM under the hood, and it replied I cannot go to google.com or access the internet, right? And let's give another prompt. Can you make a database on my machine? Now I am giving it another prompt, and if you can see, it replied back I cannot create the database, but it gave us the other information that how to do that. Let's give it another example. Can you create a empty txt file on my machine? Now you can see that all of these three requests that we ask this large language model, this large language model is not able to do that task, right? So this is where the MCP server comes in. The MCP server gives that Claude or VS Code editor the ability to perform all the tasks that we want. In other words, it gives MCP host the ability to explore the external world. When we say the external world, it's mean that now the LLM or AI agents can communicate on the web search. Now they can make the database operation. Now they can do the file system operation, which means that they can update, delete, or remove files from our machine. They can also create database. They can also create schema for that particular database. It can create tables. It can create and delete records on all operation on the database. They can perform all the operation on the database. This is what it gives these LLMs the power. So now I will show you how basically it works. So I told you what is MCP. The MCP is nothing but the client application like Claude, Cursor, Windsurf, VS Code, right? And what it does, it gives these that I showed you, it gives this Claude the ability to go to the Google search. Right now it's not able to do that, but we will do it right now. So let me spin up my Docker containers. So now what I'm trying to show you is I will spin up some MCP servers, right? And these MCP servers will give this MCP host the power to go on Google, or they can make the web search. They can also perform database operation. They can also perform the file operations. So let me close this Claude and let's open it again. So the first part, the MCP host. Now we have a MCP host Claude. Now I spin up the Docker containers, right? And once I spinned up those Docker containers, it's mean I have set up the MCP server. So let me show you, because I told that I will show you everything. So now you can see when I spin up the containers, we have a Postgres MCP server, which gives the MCP host Claude the ability to do the database operations. This is the Google Maps. It gives the ability to LLM where it can search thing on Google Maps. This is for web search, which is a Brave. The file system, it gives the power to that particular MCP host. It can now make the file system, memory, and bunch of others. So we will give it the same query that we gave it before. Go to google.com and search all the articles on MCP server topic using your MCP tools. So now you can see we have supplied the same query to the Claude, and now you can see it asking me for the permission to go on to make a web search. Now you can see it's going to google.com. It will search for all of those articles. Now you can see it's keep on asking for the permission. Now I shall search for the article. Now you can see that these are these containers are the MCP servers which we spinned up. So if we go back here, now we have an MCP host, which is a Claude in our case. Then we have MCP servers, right? So these MCP servers, these are running. So we ran them from the Docker containers. So for the web search, it's using Puppeteer, Brave Search. For doing the file system operation like creating, deleting, and updating the files, it will use this MCP server, which means that now you can see it's still asking me. So let's back to our topic here. If you see these MCP servers, so we have spinned up 11 Docker containers, and each Docker container is a MCP server, and this MCP server is responsible for one particular task. As I showed you, Puppeteer, do the web search. The file system containers give that we have spinned up MCP server for the file system, so it gives the power to this Claude host to make the file operations. And in the same way we have set up the Postgres MCP server, which gives this MCP host the ability to perform the database operations. So now you can see what happened. We gave the prompt, go to google.com, search all the articles on the topic using it. Now you can see it searched for it from here. It went to the google.com, it searched for all the articles. Now you can see if we are encountering an issue with direct search, so it's mean now if there is any problem with these LLMs not able to communicate with the external world, they can use other tools. In this case, if you see, it used the Brave search, and now if you see here, it fetch all the information from the web, right? So the what is MCP server? MCP protocol is an open source introduced by Anthropic in mid 2024. What happened right now? It basically did the search on the Google, on the search engine, and fetch all the real-time information. And in that way, now this particular LLM can communicate on the web search using MCP server, and these are our MCP server running inside the Docker container. So let's give it another query. Can you create an empty file on my machine using your MCP tools? So now we gave it another request. I cannot have the ability to create the file blah 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 on your machine MCP while I can help. So let's give it this query again. You have MCP file system already. You can now create an empty file in your project directory. Now we are telling this LLM that you have the abilities for creating the files. It will make those files. So now if you see here, I do have the tool that can interact with file system in the environment. I do not directly have access. I see that I have access to the project directory. In this environment, I can create an empty file. Let me do that first. Now you can see that we query this LLM to create the empty file in the system, and now you can see that it has created an empty file successfully. So let's go to the file system. So this is our file system container, and let's open the terminal and let's search for the files. So now you can see this is empty file.txt, and it's just created 49 seconds ago, right? So this is how these AI agents are becoming too much powerful, right? So previously when we gave the same query, it's not able to even do the Google search, and they also not able to create the files on our system. But now you can see we have all of these containers running as our MCP server. Each MCP server serves a different purpose. So for example, this MCP server gives the ability to create the databases. This gives the Google Maps. This is for also for the search purposes. This is a file system, the memory, the thinking, and fetch, get. So different MCP tools are set up, and this Claude using all of these tools. If we click on this, now you can see we have bunch of tools now attached with this particular MCP host, in our case Claude. So let's do one more thing. Can you create a database using your MCP tools for testing purpose? So now we gave it another query to create a MySQL. So now you can see it asking me for the permission, and it using SQLite in that case. So now it's creating the basic database, which means now these LLMs, now these AI agents can perform all kind of operations, which means they can do the web search, they can fetch the real-time information from the internet, they can modify, create, update and delete all of those files on our system, and they also can create the database. It's mean now they can do whatever we want them to do, right? So now you can see it created the test user and test order successfully. So let's go back and check inside the file system. I will go to the file system here. So now you can see it created two files. One is the database file and one is the query files. So now you can see that now it not only can create the files, but also it can create the databases. So now what I will do is I will shut down my Docker containers and I will close that out. Now you can see we are seeing a bunch of errors. Now it will not be able to go to Google. Go to google.com and fetch all the articles from the Google on MCP Server topic using your MCP tool. We need to restart when we will close that, but let's give it a try. So it will keep on stuck here because we have closed all the MCP server. But when I will quit this and I will reopen this, because we have shut down all of the MCP servers, now it will not be able to communicate on any platform. So let's go back here. Now you can see those 59 tools are no longer appearing here. And if we say the same query, go to google.com using your MCP tools. So it will not be able to go to the Google. So now you can see when we have shut down all of our MCP servers, this Claude or this MCP host is not able to communicate with the Google. So now you understand that what is MCP host. The MCP host is any app that is using LLM under the hood. In our case, it's Claude and VS Code. And these MCP hosts made the request to MCP server. So we have spinned up 11 MCP servers using the Docker containers, right? And then we gave the multiple queries, multiple prompt to those MCP hosts, and you have seen that how they are communicating on the web serve, how they are doing the database operation, and how they are doing the file system. So I hope you understand everything, and if you have any question, just comment down. And now you have seen that how these works. We have spinned up 11 Docker containers, each responsible for different operation, and in simple word, we have 11 MCP server, and they did the magic, like they can give MCP host the ability to do the Google search, they can perform the database operation, and they can also do the file system operation. Just let me know in the comment about your questions and I will answer you. And one more thing that I want to mention is, if you want me to show you how to set up this Docker based system, I will do that in the next video. See you again. Have a good day.